Hey everybody, XM666 here, the Hillbilly in Japan, coming at you again with some more of that Back for Blood content. First and foremost, I am a Twitch streamer. I stream 4 days a week. The link is on the screen, about right there. Make sure y'all swing by the stream sometime, check out the content, get any tips, anything else like that you need. I'll put all relevant links to, say, my Twitch or my Discord down in the description below. Alright, now that's out of the way, what kind of content do I got for you today? Well, it is one of my post-update melee decks. And I mean the October update, post-October update melee decks. Mainly concerning the Heng rework. So it is a Heng melee deck I like to call the Iron Chef. It's a lot of fun. It's very tanky, but enough of me running my mouth. Let me go ahead and throw you over to the deck. Alright folks, and here is the Iron Chef deck. For those that don't want to stick around, go ahead, grab it, copy it, paste it in your game, give it a whirl. I just ask, as usual, come back, give me some feedback, let me know what you think of it, throw a comment in my video, on my stream, in my Discord. At this point, you should know how to get a hold of me, and if you're new, there again, all relevant links in the description. Alright, for those sticking around, let's break down the deck. So, first and foremost, kind of makes sense since it's a Heng, is Food Scavenger. Heng has become very strong since the rework that he received. He now has basically built-in Food Scavenger. He makes more food spawn. He can see food. He gains a double effect of when he eats food. He gains the effect of food when somebody else eats it. He gains an additional trauma heal whenever he ever eats food. So he gets like 12 HP, 12 trauma heal from eating peaches. So it's pretty significant. He also has the team effect that you heal whenever anybody eats food, they recover 1 HP and 1 stamina. Just really, really strong. And of course, in a melee deck, obviously, cereal, peanut butter, both are really good for you. And then you don't even have to look for power bars. Whenever somebody else eats power bars, you'll still gain that 1% damage. So you actually gain a little bit DPS there. And Food Scavenger just goes hand in hand with any Heng. If you're playing Heng, you need to make space for Food Scavenger. It's very, very strong because it just makes more food spawn. Makes you gain 3 more additional health from food. It's really, 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 really strong. Can't say enough about it. Heng is amazing. Alright, following this up, I've got Food Scavenger away. Let's move into the actual melee portion of the deck. Well, go ahead and throw the next 2 cards on the screen. Meth Head and Adrenaline Fueled. Pretty standard fare here when it comes to a melee deck. Obviously, Meth Head at 50% melee speed, 50% melee efficiency. You don't really need Brazen in this deck. That's one of the places I trim the fat. I typically like to run Meth Head, Brazen, and Adrenaline Fueled. But if you get enough peanut butter, you can get around not having Brazen. And in fact, if you eat 5 peanut butter, if I'm not mistaken, you will actually, at a 10 stack of Meth Head, no longer have a stamina bar when you're meleeing. You will literally have unlimited stamina. You could literally hold the melee button and just walk across the map. It's kind of neat. I mean, you don't really get to take a lot of value out of that typically, because usually you'll end up getting the 5 peanut butter near the end of the mission, blah blah blah. But it's kind of a neat little gimmick to have the unlimited stamina when you melee. You don't really need that. I mean, you eat 3, even 2 peanut butter. I mean, stamina's not going to be a problem anyways. Less than it already is. And of course, Adrenaline Fueled. This one's pretty standard. I mean, you want to be able to recover stamina from killing enemies. I mean, you need that pretty much in any melee deck. And it goes... And of course, when you pick up cereal and peanut butter, that will fill the role of brazen. Get a few cereal, get a couple peanut butters, or don't even worry about cereal. Let your teammates eat it either way, and you will have your brazen back in no time. All right, so that is the 2 stamina cards we're using this deck. Go ahead and throw on the next 4 cards. These are health restoration melee health restoration cards. There are 4 here because one did recently get a buff. We got Battle Lust, Vanguard, Ignore the Pain, and Face Your Fears. We'll touch on these a little bit. Battle Lust. I mean, you already heal a lot of trauma with eating peaches or any food, because you eat any food you gain 1 trauma as Heng, but you also get regaining 0.125 trauma per kill, which is also there again affected by healing efficiency, so is the one heal per kill as well. So very strong in this deck. You can get your trauma back really, really fast. Really adds to your tankiness. And of course, Vanguard, for that team support, so you can heal your teammates when you're killing. Ignore the Pain. This is a big one. They recently made it to where Ignore the Pain is affected by healing efficiency. This is a pretty big, significant deal, actually. If you can get your team to stack well rested and maybe get at least 1 medical expert in there, and if you get lucky and find more in the mission, you can go face to face with most specials and win. Bruisers obviously can still hit significantly when they're not doing the AoE smash in all directions move, and they just do the single, I'm going to turn you into paste. That'll do some significant damage. You probably can't out-heal that. It will eventually, there's a battle of attrition, you will eventually lose. But tall boys, not a problem. Everything else, not a problem. Even breakers, not a problem, because you can maneuver around them and just keep swinging. And unlike other melee healing cards, it still recovers or restores 2 health every time it procs. And that's every time you hit a mutation. Plus the 20% melee damage against mutations doesn't hurt either. It just gives you that much more survivability. And of course, the other problem you always ran into when finding a special, especially if there's no commons around, you'd run out of stamina. Problem fixed. Ignore the Pain, 3 stamina a hit. You can, especially if you've got some peanut butter on you to where you use a lot less stamina, you can sustain your stamina while you're fighting that special, that breaker, the hag, whatever. Very, very strong card. Highly recommend working it into any of your melee decks. They're very, 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 very strong. Because it increases your tankiness and tankiness, survivability, however you want to word it, and gives you a little bit of damage to do to specials, which is damage is not something I usually worry about in a horde clearing deck, but this just makes you a little more well-rounded with no downside. And of course, Face Your Fears. Standard. Gotta have the temp health when you kill something. Just adds to your survivability. Having all 4 of those gives you a lot of survivability. It comes to health and HP and temp HP restoration. Especially if you have well rested stacked on the team. That's just that much more temp health. Very, very strong combo. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and throw up the next 3 cards. Our healing efficiency cards. EMT bag. You knew this was coming. It's pretty standard. 50% healing efficiency. Obviously, it works hand in hand with the cards I just showed you. The melee health restoration cards. And of course, antibiotic ointment. Big fan of this one because the 25%. Now we're up to 75%. And then, of course, we're following it up with well rested. We were talking about that one earlier. Especially if you can stack it as a team. That overheal is really, really strong on this deck. It just really adds to your tankiness / survivability. Plus you get another 5% healing efficiency, which also affects the team, which puts you at a whopping 80% healing efficiency. You only miss a medical expert. Maybe get lucky and find it. Bump it back up to 95%. Either way, 80% is nothing to scoff at. It's really, really good. I don't usually like to go lower than 80% in a melee deck. 80% is usually my bare minimum. I do not like to get under 80%. The survivability you get from 80% healing efficiency is significant. Not to mention, if you do find, well, healing efficiency doesn't really apply to medical professional in its current state. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. It uses this target's healing efficiency, but regardless, you can always find a medical professional and use a melee as a backup doc because they can use med kits efficiently because of their healing efficiency. So still got that going for you. But regardless, 3 strong cards for this deck. The healing efficiency for better healing, more survivability. All right, we're going to go ahead and toss the next 3 cards on the screen. Boy, there's a pattern going on here. We got trauma resistance cards. I have recently discovered the value of trauma resistance. Just something about this game. You always learn something new, experiment with something different. No matter how many hours you got into the game. I recently, like I said, started playing around with trauma resist and discovered that it is very, very strong and has very strong value. I think the only reason I never experimented with it in the past is because Battle Lust was not a thing. I mean, it was, but it didn't have the trauma heal on it. So even when you had lots of trauma resist, you had no way to restore any trauma that you did gain. So it never felt very valuable. But now that you have the ability to heal trauma, even if it's not super fast, I mean, you can get it down to where it takes, 4 kills to restore 1 trauma. If you're taking less trauma, it seems a lot more significant. And of course, starting this off, wooden armor. Now, wooden armor does have the nasty little minus 100% fire resist. I was terrified of this card in the past and always considered it trash. I have definitely since then changed my opinion. The minus 100% fire resistance is actually not a big deal, honestly. The only thing you run into is charred, right? And it's not that bad. Not to mention, with all the healing efficiency and the healing cards, you'll out-heal any fire damage you take anyways. Now, if somebody lights you on fire with a gas can or a Molotov, yeah, that's going to hurt. Get out of that. That's just a rude teammate right there. But it happens, obviously. Just get out of the fire. Or go swinging. If you're hitting enemies, you'll be fine. You'll heal it anyways. But do not be afraid of that minus 100% fire resistance. It's just like glass cannon. Don't be afraid of the minus health it gives you. Wooden armor is kind of the same way. You can adjust to it. Actually, it's less threatening because you can just heal your way right through fire. Very, very strong, and 3% trauma resist cannot be scoffed at. Following it up, body armor. That's the other trauma resistance card. It's got the highest number on it, but this one has no downsides. 20%, which bumps us up to 50% trauma resistance. That's significant, but we're not done. We also have durable. Durable recently got a buff as well. I have a similar deck that was using it before. Now it's even better. 15% trauma resist, 10 health, which is nice. Plus 20% fire resist, which is nice because now it drops the minus 100% on your wooden armor down to minus 80%. At least now your fire damage isn't, fire damage you receive is not doubled. Hey, I mean, still a plus, right? Very strong, which puts us at a whopping, 65% trauma resist. Now, the really neat thing about that is, if you have a doc on your team, which is just about every team you'll have, right? Especially in No Hope. I mean, sometimes you run without a doc. It's doable. But if you do have a doc on your team, that will bump your 65% trauma resistance up to 72% trauma resistance because of Doc's multiplicative 20% trauma resist. Remember, that is her buff team effect is not additive, it is multiplicative. So it does not give you a flat 20% on top of your trauma. There's some different math involved there because it's multiplicative. I made that same mistake in the past and recently got corrected. So it actually, instead of bumping you up to 85%, which you would think it would, because you would think it's additive, it actually bumps you up to 72% because it's multiplicative. Still, 72% is very, very nice. If you happen to find fanny pack, which will bump you up to 80% flat, and then with a 20% from the dock will bump you up to 84%. It's obviously the more you have, the less you get from the multiplicative. You can get up to 84%, which is nice. But regardless, on this one, you're sitting at 65% flat, and of course with the dock, 72%. So generally you'll be at 72% trauma resist, which is significant. You will not have trauma problems. Trauma resistance is amazing. It works on Ravenous. It does work on Ravenous. You'll take less trauma from Ravenous. You will not care about Ravenous. Hell, you don't even have to eat food when Ravenous is involved. Let all your teammates have the food. You can just concentrate going through the mission. You'll be fine. You can't starve to death. It works on warp chests. So if you don't have toolkits to open warp chests to not take the debuff, and they get the trauma damage out of a warp chest, you won't even notice. Your bar will like barely move. So very, very strong. All right, the next card, Spiky Bits. Knew it had to be there, right? This is a standard. Gotta have it in every melee deck. This is also the only damage resistance card we're running in this deck. It is a little lighter than I would like on damage resist. I typically like to run Motorcycle Helmet as well, but I had to cut something to fit in Ignore the Pain. Before they made Ignore the Pain better, before I realized the value of Ignore the Pain, I actually had Motorcycle Helmet in its place. And then I bought Ignore the Pain in a recent run through No Hope with this deck and discovered its value and made me reassess the deck before I give it to y'all. So I removed Motorcycle Helmet and added Ignore the Pain, and have not regretted that decision. It has not affected my survivability. I'm not quite as tanky, but because of the trauma resist and all the health restoration, you won't really notice. And then of course, any damage resistance cards you find, be it Motorcycle Jacket, Motorcycle Helmet. I'm a little standoffish about Padded Suit because the minus the stamina, but if you think you can handle it and get around it, or if you've gotten lucky and you found Rhythmic Breathing or something like that, I don't typically buy stamina cards, but in this deck I might, in the off chance I find Padded Suit, just to counter it. So you definitely want to look for those cards. Get your damage resistance up a little higher, just makes you more tanky. But you also have the flat 15 melee damage from Spiky Bits, which there again is strong in those situations where you need to punch and kill any nearby commons and things like that. Standard. All right, the final card, which is very meta, is Scar Tissue. Gotta have Scar Tissue in your melee decks nowadays. It is very, very strong. Take 1 less damage from all ridden after damage resistance, which isn't significant seeing we only have 20% damage resist, but still 1 less damage. It helps. And then plus 50% acid resist. There again, take 1 less damage from ridden, so it definitely helps with, say, like Charred. Since you're already taking 80% more damage from them in this deck, at least you take 1 less, right? It's a very, very strong card that I cannot stress how powerful and strong that plus 50% acid resist is. You will not fear wretches, and if anything, you could take a shower in their acid vomit. I know that sounds kind of disgusting, but my point still stands. Acid will not scare you. It is definitely nothing to be feared on this deck. You can heal your way through it. You can run through it really fast, take minimal damage. Very, very, very strong card. All right, folks, and that is the Iron Chef. This deck is extremely tanky, lots of survivability, has the ability to handle specials if they have to, if you're lacking DPS on your team. It can get the job done, especially with the buffs that come in from food. Food makes a very, very big difference to this deck. it's a really, really good deck. I think y'all would enjoy it. So give it a whirl. Yet again, give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. Until next time, folks, happy gaming. Keep drinking that Kool-Aid. And peace.